I wanted to go ahead and just deal with the practical idea, the practical notion of storytelling, of why stories matter. And I want to just take us back to a moment that we all remember, and that's some crazy time in grade one or in kindergarten when the mats came out and it was after lunch and everyone lay down on the mat and the teacher said, I'm going to read you a story. And they began with Once Upon a Time. So, really, since that moment, we've all been preconditioned to the idea, the reality, the impact, the power of stories. But that moment just simply taps into a multi generational coda, if you will. And that is human beings are hardwired to respond to story. Now, I want to just say that over the course of all the years and all the stuff I've produced and all the stuff that I've written, I believe that you make story work by having what I like to call a unifying aesthetic. And here's what I mean by that. The story's really got to be about one thing. And whatever that one thing is, it resolves and resonates through every character, every moment, every beat of the story. And that idea, if you will, is borrowed from a Greek word, oida, transliteration oida, oida. And the idea, the concept of oida is to represent a fullness and a completeness, kind of the 360-degree sphere, the essence of who you are, what you're about, what that something is. So when you're thinking about creating a story across any genre, the thing that I challenge everyone that I work with to consider is, what is this about? What is the one thing, the kernel, the horizon point that represents this particular story? And if you can find that, you can tell a good tale. Now, why is this important? In other words, as my dad used to say, who pastored a church, all right, you've gone all through all this sermon, all this Sunday school, all this stuff, just force these people to sit here and listen to you for, like, at least in the Pentecostal church, at least an hour plus. There were no 20-minute sermons in the Pentecostal church. But one of the things that, my dad would often say is, all right, okay, so what? So when it relates to this whole idea of the unifying aesthetic, what's the so what? Well, the so what is we live in a world where people are deluded. And when people are deluded, they're seeking, knocking on every door, trying to find truth. If you are a storyteller, then the essence of your fundamental truth, your unifying aesthetic, it has to be the search and the quest to represent truth. Think about that. The whole idea of creating a good story, it begins with the unifying aesthetic. And what is the unifying aesthetic? It is that which represents the wholeness, the 360-degree sphere circumference of the idea that your story encapsulates. So if you're writing, if you're creating, whatever you're doing, script, short story, stage play, 30-second commercial spot, whatever you're working on, drill down and get to the unifying aesthetic. And that'll help you sort it out. All right, if you haven't had an opportunity to get my book, it's on Amazon. The name of it is Prophet Smith of Shreveport. And before I started writing that novel, I did sit down and come up with the unifying aesthetic. So check out Prophet Smith of Shreveport. It's on Amazon. And thank you for watching, listening to my little piece about the power of story and the value of the unifying aesthetic. And that's a cut.